Will. Hopefully, you're having an amazing day today. So, we are jumping into quantum today. The market has been innovating super fast, and while revenue's still been kind of low in most of the quantum market, we've seen the quantum market see huge increases in attention, huge increases in the investments from top tech companies, and frankly, every single person that's in the stock market or investing in tech right now has some pulse on what's happening in quantum. And I think it's really important to be looking at this market at this time because it's one of the fastest growing markets of 2025, if not the fastest. And so I think if we're going to start it off with a full breakdown, we should really start it off with just looking at the markets at the scale that they're at right now. You see, the overall growth of the quantum market has been significant, and we've been able to capitalize on a lot of it. We're up about 145% on Rigetti, and we've been, buying and selling and holding companies like IonQ. There's some other ticker symbols that have been starting to get introduced in the quantum markets as of recently. I don't know if you guys have seen recently some of the top quantum stocks that have been announced, but gosh, there's so many new ones. It seems like popping up every single day. And so today, let's get into it. Let's see what we got going for the quantum market. How are you guys doing? How's everyone? JZev, what's going on from NYC? JZev, let's get you a t-shirt. Do you got a StockMate t-shirt? I'm ready to send you a t-shirt right now. Let's do it. Can you send me an email? Link is in, my email is in the description of the video. And just say, hi, Will told me I can have a free t-shirt. And it better be JZev. And go claim a free t-shirt. I want to get it over to you. The quantum market, yeah, as we can see, we got some growth happening for sure. QBTS, you see some recent pullbacks, but overall just a monster year as we get back into, a lot of these quantum stocks we started covering last year just before this time. So, in 2024, around October, was when we started covering these quantum stocks. And QBTS was at $1 a share. Rigetti was at $1 a share at the time. Okay. IonQ, gosh, it had to be below like $10. Yeah, it was at $7 or $8 a share. Let's go, JZev. Just send a message over and we'll get it to you. And so there's a few new quantum developments. And I think one of the keys to watch right now, I don't know if you guys have really seen, but you see this overall uptrend in the quantum market, just all the volume, despite the revenue not really surging. I think a key factor for that, and a big reason for that, is because of the NVIDIA movement into quantum. And so right now, if we're looking at the charts and we kind of see the movement right now, you can see how's Bitcoin doing today. It's in the red, but you can take a look. Every quantum company has been on an uptrend over the last year, and there's a reason. It's not just because of hype. It's because there is some developments that have been kind of brewing in the quantum market. And one of those developments is going to be the optimization of quantum computers for commercial usage. So a good example, when we went to the conferences this past year, we learned they took 20 years worth of data and they ran it through a quantum computer and got out of millions of options, they got 8 options. Out of millions of data points, they got it down to 8 options. From those 8 options, they were able to find a solution to improve the lithium ion battery by as much as 70%. You got direct carbon sequestration, so pulling CO2 out of the air, and you have the development of quantum for drug discovery. Drug discovery is one thing. When you're looking at quantum and drug discovery, you're essentially looking at the companies like Amgen, for example. It's a really big company. I don't know if you guys have seen Amgen. They've been on a big uptrend, and they're using quantum as well. And they're using it for drug discovery. And the drug discovery that they're doing is, every time you want to find a solution to something, there's like the high level and then there's the deep. You go deep. And same thing with, for example, finding vaccines. Vaccines, you're going to be seeing, binding of peptide proteins. If you wanted to do some calculations, you could do that on GPUs. You could do some GPU simulations, some calculations here and there, probably, especially if you wanted to do, let's say, a high level reaction, how baking soda and vinegar react, or how the chemical reaction, maybe down to the different chemicals, but you're not going to get down to the atoms. If you want to get down to the atoms, that's when you use a quantum computer. And so the quantum computers are used to, for example, there's millions of different or billions of different peptide proteins that can bind together for finding the cure to a disease, right? If you can bind the two peptide proteins together, is the theory, then you can essentially come up with a vaccine or a cure for a different disease to take care of it. And so quantum computers are doing that. There's real world usage in quantum. A lot of people think that there's not, but you can see that if in the drug discovery space, it's there. In the carbon, climate space, it's there. In the batteries, in the the ion approach is very powerful. They're even using quantum now in comparison with AI as well. And so NVIDIA has one of the top partnerships. So NVIDIA has stakes in IonQ as well as Rigetti. And IonQ, from a financial perspective, they're at $17 billion. They're not small anymore. They're pretty large, but their net income's still negative. So what gives? Balance sheet's up. They're up to $4 billion in total assets. That's amazing. It was just, this past year, we were saying, oh, we hope that $2.7 billion worth of funding can get passed from the US government, which, by the way, it still has not, I don't believe, this $2.7 billion National Quantum Initiative. And then guess what? They went out and got private money, or they got public investors to come in, and now they got assets of $4.3 billion. And so, the markets are moving towards the quantum. And you might say, okay, well, there's the bubble warnings, there's blah, blah, blah. But the news is one thing. What you want to look at, is, for example, like, look at what they do, not what they say. Isn't that it? NVIDIA just announced in less than a month ago, okay, exactly a month ago, basically, October 28th, that you could see this picture. Can you guys see this picture? Everybody see this photo on my screen? It is a photo of their, server GPUs set up here. And what is this? It's from the GPUs, and then it links. And what is that over there? What is that over here? Does anybody know what that is on the left? Let's go take a look at this website that's called Rigetti. Oh, look at that. What is that? What is this? It's a quantum computer, right? So if I click over and I look at NVIDIA, look at that. Perfect fit. It's a quantum computer. So, not only are quantum computers being catered to by big tech with the development of the Google Willow chip, but you also have the Amazon Ocelot chip, and then you also have the Microsoft coming out with the Majorana chip. So these are quantum chips designed to be integrated in to the quantum computers. If you go down to the QPU, we look at the QPU on the machine here of Rigetti. Okay, so this is Rigetti stock. Rigetti stock is at, currently, they're holding at $25 a share, down to the 200-day moving average. and they have bounced that support level. We were looking for a 35% recovery. They recovered about 17% so far. So they're bouncing at $22, looking to jump up into $30 a share, as you can see on their overall uptrend. So they've pulled back. But when we looked at the Majorana chip, Microsoft's Majorana chip, it looks like this. See that? It really looks like it's going to fit perfectly into the Rigetti quantum computer. If you look at the Rigetti setup, you kind of look at that QPU. See this right here? It's like perfect fit right here, over here. The quantum chip fitting into the QPU. Okay, and so you can see this new architecture used to develop the Majorana 1 processor offers a clear path to fit 1 million qubits on a single chip that can fit in the palm of one's hand, Microsoft said. This is a needed threshold for quantum computers to deliver transformative, real-world solutions, such as breaking down microplastics into harmless byproducts or inventing self-healing materials for construction, manufacturing, or healthcare, which we kind of talked about earlier in the video. All the world's current computers operating together can't do what a 1 million qubit quantum computer will be able to do. And you can see as they're optimizing for the quantum computer here, that this Majorana chip is, again, it's like you can see the quantum computers in the background. It's like a perfect fit, okay, for the Rigetti computer. Now we know that if we go down to the partners, Microsoft is a top partner with Rigetti. And so why am I saying this? It's because NVIDIA holds a large share in this, but NVIDIA just announced this integration with the quantum computers into the GPUs. And so I think this is one of those moments, and you don't want to miss it. You want to be aware of where the markets are going. There's a great story of this investor who was trying to learn how to be successful in his business, and he became one of the most successful lumber dealers in the world. And his approach to becoming the most successful, when reporters asked him, how did you become so successful? His response was, every night I sit down in a quiet room in a chair and I think about how my business is going to be operated 5 years from now. And then I try and do it now. So there's so many opportunities, so many things to miss in the tech space. You could miss, the nuclear, you could miss the new space tech or the data centers that are getting built. But don't forget, the things that have, don't forget on the reverse engineering of the reason that AI is here today is because of a thing that came out, really, that's the GPUs, and the GPUs made it possible. And so, quantum computing is the next era. Now, maybe it's not fully developed. It's not fully developed right now. But there's a reason that there's so much cash going into the market, and there's a reason that NVIDIA is integrating now into their data centers. You see, in the past, NVIDIA would do something like this and nobody would say anything. In fact, today it's kind of like that even. Because why? Nobody knew NVIDIA was going to be the top AI company until maybe when things started to shift back in 2017, 2018. You got to catch it before the massive surge, which we were able to. Actually, was buying at $20 a share, $20 a day, buying 1 share a day of NVIDIA back in 2021 even. And so, what I'm saying is that the reality of where this is going, it's right in front of us. We can actually kind of see it. And yeah, there could be some, extra hype on the quantum train for sure. But when you look at the potential for quantum, I think it's massive. And they're being used right now. In fact, we just integrated into the Prophecy machine. So if you wanted to, for example, like we were doing some analysis earlier today on AMD stock, and how this app works is you can search up a stock with your favorite model. So Grok or OpenAI or Claude or Gemini, and you can search your favorite stock and have it, uh, the connection between the model and the stock also has some extra data in between, like some top sources, some very high quality sources. What's going on, Shaz? Do I follow F1? No, I don't. Not that much. I mean, I really like Senna. The movie on Senna is really good. Um, that was an amazing movie. But I like F1. When I see F1 stuff, I like it. I was actually really into MotoGP when I was younger because I used to ride motorcycles all the time. And I even went to this place called Laguna Seca that's in Monterey, or like right by in California where I used to live. And my dad, when I was growing up, I started riding motorcycles when I was 5 years old. And so my dad had the Ducati, and we would go. I had a Ninja 250, and we would go to the Laguna Seca, and we would watch the MotoGP races like Valentino Rossi and Casey Stoner, and you know all the best riders. And I'd go in the pit stops and get things signed. I got a ton of autographs, things like that. I used to do things like that. So yeah, I mean, I'm more into like the motorcycle stuff, but I like F1. Did I go to the Vegas GP? No, I did not. I will, but anyway, when you're looking at this quantum, all right, we just added quantum analysis. So after I get my analysis, we can load up a stock. Let's do Rigetti. Let's get a new one on Rigetti stock. RGTI. Rigetti Computing. Boom, that was fast. Is it fast? Let's see. Let me get a refresh on Claude. There we go. What are my thoughts on QBTS? I think QBTS is slightly more developed because of the amount of time that they've been around. QBTS has contracts with companies like NASA that they get money every single year from those contracts, and those contracts renew for more and more. So they have a lot of growth, but I think QBTS has less backing or interest from companies like NVIDIA, for example. I don't know what it is, but the quantum annealing seems to be, the safer approach if you're going to do quantum. Like, it works, it can be viable, but does it surpass or have the ability to surpass what is being done on GPUs? Currently, there's a lot of claims, and I've been to the conference. I've even met the CEO of QBTS personally. And I can tell you that going to the conferences, learning about the company, that they have a product that is demanded by the governments and more in the research side. But when it comes to the claims that they're superior to, for example, GPUs right now, I haven't really seen that. And in fact, they had claims like that on D-Wave, and then there was some claims that were very strong, and then we saw a few lawsuits kind of show up, and then they changed a lot of their messaging from saying things like, we are, far superior in the ability to compute problems. Like right now, it says solving computationally complex problems in business and science. If I go back to a video, I mean, let's do it. I'll search across my channel, QBTS, and we could go back to, earlier this year, and the wording that they used was way different. The wording was actually like, for example, they would say like, we are better than GPUs or things like that. Let me see if I can pull up some marketing. There I am a year ago. Let's see their company. Okay, so here's what they would say. They would say last year they had a partnership there that didn't turn into very much with Zapata AI. Yeah, they might have changed some of the messaging, but at one point, D-Wave was saying that they were far superior than GPUs. Somebody called them out. And then there was some lawsuits on their site. And then now they don't say that. You can see we're covering them back here around like, since like, yeah, $9 a share in this video is when we were covering them. And I said, you can't afford to miss this 10 months ago. That's crazy. That, yeah. Appreciate you all. There's some, I see some of you guys that are in the comments today that are still here over in the chat. Appreciate you all. And so with QBTS, you know, they used to say complex problems that aren't possible on GPUs. They changed it. Luckily, they changed their marketing, but I don't know. I didn't see that QBTS had the ability to solve problems that weren't solvable on GPUs. So for that reason, you know, slightly more reserved to give them a shot. We are actually in the process of integrating quantum into our AI analysis that I was just showing you guys a second ago. We pulled up Rigetti Computing to get some analysis via Claude. It's fairly bullish on the company. Little bit bearish into market open maybe, but fairly bullish on the company. But what we have is we actually have the ability to run a quantum backend. So we recently to the machine added IonQ and Rigetti for quantum analysis of any projections that we've pulled out from the AIs on any stocks. So you get the projections for the future for all these different time frames, the 1 hour, 1 day, 1 month, 1 year, what have you, all those time frames. Then we can run it through IonQ. I click here. Look at that. Oh, gave me a little bit of trouble. Is it working? There we go. Loading. Oh, okay. So it says the 3-month price is where it has the most confidence when we gave it all of the data from the AI model and we ran it through IonQ. The 3-month price has 73% confidence. So yeah, I mean, we're literally using quantum computing in our app right now for the projections on the stocks. So I'm really bullish on quantum personally, but I do think like people got ahead of themselves when it was up here to $46. And now that we see everything pull back, things start to enter a more reasonable and healthy level. And they're down to this, 200-day moving average here, that we could see companies start to recover, use that previous resistance as a support. And that's what we saw with most companies. QBTS there, LB Photo says, what are your thoughts on QBTS? That's some of my thoughts there. And then the same thing is with Rigetti. Rigetti bounced down to that 200-day moving average as well as the previous resistance level. They recently bounced. That looks pretty good. And then over on IonQ, similar story. You look on IonQ, what did they do? They pulled down to that 200-day moving average, and they're kind of at that previous resistance, that previous support, and potentially using it as a support right now as well. So most quantum companies actually in a position where, hey, they might be getting ready to continue that upward direction and see some of the continuation of the trend that they started to establish over the last year. And it's a crucial time for them because if they can't, they will break pattern. A lot of the companies would have to sell down considerably more, about 10 to 20% further, for them to truly break their pattern that they've established over the last year. Nick says, what do you think is the best approach to investing in quantum? Spreading out over many stocks. Is a question mark, or that's a question. Yeah, I mean, so Nick, how I invest in quantum, I personally have been buying dips on quantum. I was fortunate enough that when this crash happened last year in January, we bought big because we went to the conference right after that and we saw that the technology was actually much more serious. And even though that Jensen crashed the market by saying that they're not going to use it 15, 20 years away or whatever, or 30 years away, you could see just this last month with NVIDIA introducing the NVQ link for the quantum computers into the data centers. So obviously there was something there, but the media was like, no, and the quantum stocks crashed, right? And then we saw the recovery happen. But we bought big there. So whenever those types of things happen, you see the market pull back, you see the market really dip down, that's when I'll usually add to the longer term positions in the quantum market. When it comes to the values that you have, you're going to be rewarded in the market for your values. So, if you're, there's certain values that play stronger into your success, depending on what you're going for. Like if you're going for the long-term investing, the values of patience and vision, I don't know if that's a value, maybe that's like a awareness value. So like when you notice things are down and everybody's crying and it's red, those are the times to buy. Patience, meaning like you can just hold it and you're not, you have, for example, tolerance, so the ability to not, worry when you see it go down, but more feel calm, like those types of things. Those are kind of the values and virtues that really breed successful investors. When it comes to the shorter term, we also trade the shorter term as well. So I don't personally trade any short-term stocks that I wouldn't already hold long-term because it's just against my values. Yeah, you can do like the quick pump and dump, what everybody's talking about, those types of things. Maybe get away okay with proper risk management. But even then, if something fails, you don't get out at the right time, the market closes, the order doesn't execute, you accidentally did fractional shares instead of whole shares and didn't set a limit order at a price that it would actually execute, and it wasn't whole shares, so you didn't actually sell in after hours, and then you end up seeing the stock go down and you're like, oh my gosh, the stock's down, what do I do? What do I do now? It's down and I bought high, something like that. You're okay with, you're not, if that were to happen in a shorter term trade with a stock that you already are holding long term, you kind of just mark it off as some extra capital in there and it doesn't bother you. But if it's, if you are trying to succeed in short term, the values that make up a successful short term trader, in my eyes, the things that have served me best are the decisiveness. So like it matters more that you make a decision. Sometimes we'll look at something, we're like, it's kind of high, it's kind of low, it's maybe not the best entry. And I could go into technicals and like, but that stuff actually matters less. The technicals matter less. The RSI being oversold for a good buy matters less. MACD, it matters less. And what matters most is that you have organization. That's the value. Or planning and a good attitude. Like you have to have a goal. You have to be goal oriented. That's the value. So when you get into a shorter term trade, if you're going to get in a shorter term trade, you could buy a top, you could buy a bottom, but you have to know, what is the risk management? Am I going to risk 2% here, but I'm looking for 10% or 20%? Okay, if that's the case, you can afford to lose 1%, 2%, 3%. If you're going for 10, 15, 20% per trade, I personally go, there's a ratio. It kind of takes a little bit more diligence is a key in all investing, but even more so diligence in that you plan out your trades when you enter trades and when you exit trades. And those are the things that a lot of times you could say are kind of, they're almost algorithmic, but they do take a level of realization that you don't know if BlackRock is going to sell tomorrow, and we don't have that information in its entirety. We can only control what we control, which is finding good deals, making sure that the things we're buying would be things that an institution would want to buy, that it has that type of attraction to it, but that maybe the main market hasn't caught on to it yet, and that you have the risk management and that it's okay if you buy high or if you buy low as well, because you know that you're covered in the way that you have your plan for that trade. And of course, like I said, if the company's actually inherently valuable and it's something you would invest in long term, that's just probably one of the ultimate probabilities. I think it's one of the ultimate probabilities to stack in your favor. There's lots of probabilities from technicals to news to financials for sure, but that all those things kind of jive for a long-term investment too. It actually it increases the probability of your successful trade, because if something's going to be going up over time, you're going to win more oftentimes than not, trading something that's always uptrending than something that's not, if you're just a buy and sell trader like myself. So hopefully that's helpful. What else we got? Jai says, Rich, any thoughts about Quantum Computing Inc. and its partnership with Poet Technologies? Man, that's a good question, Jai. I don't follow that company, Quantum Computing Inc. I saw a little bit of manipulation on that stock, so I don't follow it. I know I could, but I don't. Revenue, very, very low. That's what got me. Very negative, basically no revenue. Every company will succeed to the degree they're able to sell. And if they can't sell at least $1 million and they're at $2.6 billion market cap, I'm not interested. But I appreciate it. Thank you. And I respect your need, or your idea for diving deeper. But in that specific company, just because of the values they've had in the past, with how I've seen some of the hype around it, it's just not one that I'll cover. Sean says, can you check Redwire, please? I averaged down from 1020 to 844. Yeah, of course. Shaw's, I personally think your comments that you show up with the stocks you share are really good. I always love to see the stocks you're interested in. What other stocks are you watching right now, Shaw's? What other ones are you watching? And let's take a look at Redwire for you. So, first things first, when you're looking at Redwire, you got this overall uptrend over the last few years, okay? Man, it doesn't look like overall uptrend. It looks like a market cycle is what it looks like. But I'll tell you what, just as surely, as there are cause and effect principles in economics, this is one of those stocks that I believe has the type of cause that is very good. And you can look at their financials. Let's take a look at their financials. I'm not here to pump them or anything like that. I'm just objectively, out of the thousands of stocks that I've looked at this year, this specific stock has more favorable financials than nearly every other company that I've looked at. So let me pull it up. So their cause is good. They got large government contracts. They had 100 million in revenue last quarter. Their revenue is at 50% year over year. You can see their net income still negative, about 96%. But when you get into the balance sheet, this is where it's really good. They got 1.4 billion. So I'm not going to jump around too fast, but what you need to know is they have a lot of cash. They have a lot of money. So much so that they got more equity than their current market cap, okay? Pair that with the $2.6 billion space tech deal that they got onto recently, along with their developments and recent articles. I think they just signed like a $44 million contract, last week, okay? And you look at their Department of Defense contracts, Army contracts, NASA contracts, and I've actually been able to meet this company, and I didn't really talk with the company as much as their partners to ask about how they liked working with Redwire. They really liked it. They said that Redwire is a top company to work with. So their financials look favorable in my eyes. The space tech industry is in a golden age right now. It's innovating more than we've ever seen. And the US wants to be ahead in that era, and they are currently in the realm of you know this orbiting technology. They got defense technology. They have kind of like these systems that can move things from one uh, orbiting spacecraft to another. They have the defense technology down on Earth because they recently acquired a company that now already has an army contract. They also are working on Moon and Mars, and they just opened up a new manufacturing site over in Albuquerque the last few years. And they're partnered with Big Bear AI on the surveillance side of the satellites. So, when I'm looking at them from the lens of USHAWs, I think if you're in a position where you've averaged down, you see them where they're at now, that's high conviction. And if the cause is good, the effect will be just as good. And I would say so. I think that this is a company that fair value actually is most likely in the $9 to $10 range, and that if they continue to develop, I would imagine they're going to bounce. They're going to have some resistance levels for sure. They're going to face here around this level here, around about $7.50. You can see that previous support they're going to face when they bounce. If they bounce at this $5.50 range, they already bounced a little bit. But yeah, I mean, that's a 45% swing there up. I think that they got the upside. I believe this stock is going to have just as good of an effect as their cause. What else do we got going on? Josh says, Rich, any thoughts on what's the end goal of quantum computing stocks? And how are they related to decoding and ending Bitcoin? Is that, man, that's a good question. Is that like a ChatGPT question? Man. All right. So I don't think there's really an end goal, and that's why I like quantum computing. I don't really like industries that have an end goal. I think there's a general goal, like there is an end goal, but I don't think that that's what's important for the success of quantum. The success of quantum, just like anything in life, is going to be directly correlated to the value that it provides, right? I think like if you want to see quantum succeed, they're just going to continue to integrate. That's why I see them as valuable, because we just innovated and added them into our own app with IonQ and Rigetti. It's important that we use them. And the progress of quantum is more important than the end goal. I think the end goal, if you had to measure it, would probably be minimizing human disease, teleportation, extreme efficiency and energy usage conservation and generation, and potentially re-evaluations of physics is what quantum could bring. And so I think if you're looking at the quantum stocks from that angle, you're looking at like, whoa, that's really big. Like that would be huge. And we're already seeing some of those things happen on small scales. And you can see it with the LED on your phone, that it's bright and you're not getting burned right now. Or on some of the hologram stuff that has been coming out. I don't know if you guys have seen the hologram technology that has been developed this year, but there's quantum technology in that for sure. But I'm fascinated with those things. I think that there's also some progress. It's just the progress. So long as they continue to progress. We were worried about funding. They got plenty of funding this year, and now there's runway. That's really good progress for this year. I think the next progress is, seeing more commercially applicable things like what we're adding in our app that we just added with IonQ and Rigetti into Prophecy when you're projecting, for stocks. I think that's going to be huge. So we're using that, and we're going to continue to backtest more of those results and see how the real world usage translates in performance. And so, how are they related to decoding slash ending Bitcoin? I think it's possible that, you know, uh, if Bitcoin is developed in a simple and simple way, and it could truly be valuable in that it's built with values. I don't want to say that it's unhackable, but it's definitely the most secure digital creation that has ever been known at this time. So I would say if there was a hack or something like that to Bitcoin, um, you would have bigger problems. You'd have bigger problems. You probably would, yeah, you'd have bigger problems. So I wouldn't personally worry about it. I don't worry about things like that. It only takes one reason to be worried about the future of quantum. You only need one worry to go against something, you know? There's a million. Jumped in late. Says, can you address QUBT? By any chance, Sean says, Sean, how are you doing, man? Good to see you here on this Saturday. It's not looking good since it's had a death cross, but finding support around 911. I haven't heard that term too much with the death cross. Yeah, Sean, so when it comes to QUBT, I don't cover that stock much. This first time I pulled it up in probably 6 months or a year. What I found with that company is that they had some manipulation. When you manipulate a stock and you look at their financials, for me, that tells me all that I need to know. The first thing we look at when we're analyzing a stock is the market. Quantum's a good market, has cash, but still is struggling a little bit for some companies on the real world usage side. I haven't seen that with Quantum Computing Inc. So personally, that was one thing. The second thing was that when you look at QUBT, the income statement is showing revenues of just 373K while their net income is increasingly negative. And if they succeed to the degree at which they sell, which I think most companies do, they're doing a very poor job of selling. So I would say they haven't been able to sell successfully, and that's why they're not on my radar. If I was analyzing them, which I have not pulled them up on the chart, but we can real quick. If I had to say QUBT, oh man. Yeah, do you see this? This is when QUBT has had pump and dumps, and they weren't even really known as the company that they're known as today. And that's why I don't trust them. So I don't cover pump and dumps very often. What about you? I mean, you see the death cross there. You see maybe finding support around 9 or 11. Is that your thought? You're looking for that trend? I could see what you're saying. Maybe it holds like this. Got something like that. Like that. And that would be pretty impressive. But yeah, maybe it does something like this, Sean. 100% increase, continuing that trend. That would be pretty insane. But yeah, like you said, it's a death cross, right? So 200-day moving average, and you have it holding below that EMA as a resistance here. And then it crossed also below the 200-day, and it's holding below the EMA. So that is a cross. Yeah, usually when that happens, you see something sell off further. That's why you watch 200-day moving averages very closely, especially on something like, for example, SPY. Like once you see a death cross on SPY, you're usually in bearish territory. If you look at SPY, for example, once we crossed here in in March of this year, that was a death cross when it was holding below the EMA and it crossed below the 200-day moving average. Then market sold off big time down to 481. We saw that too. Back here was this 2022. Yeah, that was the bear market of 2022 when it crossed below that 200-day moving average. Oh yeah, see that market sell off there, and then it recovered. Once it crossed above and was holding above the EMA and above the 200-day moving average, from there it was all rallies for the most part, right? So, and we've seen them rally in there, and now we're up here on SPY. And so at this time, I would say QBT, yeah, you got a little bit of death cross there, man. So that's what it is. It might be okay though. I don't want to say that's what it is, but hey, we'll see how it goes. Awesome, guys. Yeah, I appreciate you all. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and your Sunday tomorrow is excellent. And again, friendly reminder, if you haven't tuned into our daily live trading sessions in StockMate, we go live Monday through Friday. You get to see my trades, see my entries, see my exits. We've had multiple over 100% trades this year. And if you want to surround yourself with other investors that are all serious about it, again, the second link below, and with Black Friday, you get the free t-shirt and you get a special offer there. So that's available, I think, till tomorrow night. So feel free to have a look. Simply take a look at the second link in the description down below. When it comes to the AI, if you guys haven't already, go grab the first link in the description there. Join that first access list for Prophecy. So you see me using different tools every day to do analysis via AI. It's a top tool for me. I love to use, Rigetti Computing, top transactors, see the different companies. You can see Claude analysis, use all the best AI models. First link in the description below to join that list. If I earned your thumbs up, hit the like button. Do consider subscribing. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much.